Get it, mate. Target red Bravo 295.
Keep a low profile.
First one to spot the enemy gets a beer. Get in there and blow them away. Scratch one of the bastards.
Bloody VC over there.
Right, I think I may have fixed it that time. Hi, folks. Hey, you should be able to see me now, and you should be able to hear me running my gob. That's right. All right, so tonight's stream, we are going to be with fabulous Chris Carson, the U.S. VP of the U.S. chat. Oh, come on, Chris. Tell me what am I saying wrong. The VP of the U.S. chapter? No. VP of U.S. Operations. All right. You probably didn't hear him because I didn't see it on my mic, but that's okay. VP of U.S. Operations for Click Team, makers of Fusion 2.5, and he's going to be showing us some really, really cool stuff pretty soon. But you know how things are. I've got to run my mouth for just a little bit real quick. I'll be real quick. Yeah. All right. So first and foremost, thank you to our Patreon, Stephen Coffey, Burton Posey, Lee Friedman, James Simpson. If you're not familiar with that name, you can go check out Snarf Quest. That's his game. Trey Carpenter, Joe Casaval, and you can find Joe's games at Puzzles by Joe. Patreon, your support will help at GGDA. We are a nonprofit organization, so your support will help us with efforts to improve our video streams and live streams and everything that we do. It's for game developers looking to break into the industry. It's also for new gamers to learn more about what goes into making their favorite games. And it's also for new designers looking to break into the industry, or experienced designers looking to break into the industry and sharpen their skills. So, next, social media, GGDA. You can find us at Twitter and Instagram at GGDA_org. Or you can find us on our Facebook page, where we're pretty active there, too. Facebook.com/groups/GGDA.org. Be sure to follow us on all of those social medias if you are interested in game development and game design. Coming up in the first weekend of October is going to be Siege, the Southern Interactive Entertainment Gaming Expo. I did that without looking at notes. Isn't that cool? If you're into game design and game development and you're in Atlanta for the first weekend of October, come check us out. It's awesome. It's really focused on learning more about game design, game development. And, hey, if you're interested in speaking at Siege, you can go to our website, ggda.org, and find out more information on how to sign up for there. Also, GGDA merchandise. Oops, I'm not wearing the shirt, but we've got coffee cups. We've got T-shirts. The coffee cups will give you more intellect for your working days, and the shirts will give you more HP anytime you're playing games. So let me say hello to Railroad Studios. Hi, I see you on YouTube there. Anybody else saying hi to me? Who here uses Fusion already? Oh, no, that's Chris. I use it. I use Fusion all the time, and I'm going to show you. Streaming. That's right. We are live streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer. All of those, you can find those at /Georgia Game Devs. So be sure to hit that like, subscribe, or follow button. We really appreciate it. It helps. All your support helps us in any way. And then finally, SimFest in Columbus, Georgia. I'm pretty sure. That is going to be on July 14th. So if you're down in Columbus, Georgia, go check that out. You can also find out more information about that at ggda.org. So real quick before we get rolling, I'm going to throw one more commercial in your face, and then Chris Carson is going to take over the show. I hope, because I am crashing at streaming. But that's okay. I love doing crashing. Guess what all game developers do. See you in a minute.
Thank you for your interest in the Georgia Game Developers Association's Patreon campaign. The Georgia Game Developers Association is a nonprofit that focuses on educating both game developers and fans on what is involved in making great games. For years we have put on live events to do just that, attracting some of the greatest thinkers in game development to share their secrets. Recently, we began our live streaming channel on Mixer to expand our ability to reach those developers and gamers far beyond our state. We have seen some initial success, but we are also hearing a lot of requests for more. More workshops, more in-depth interviews, more first looks at indie games, more giveaways, and more great streams. Your support will allow us to do just that. Even at starting levels, we both recognize your support and seek your input on what to stream. At higher levels, you can actually help shape our content, gaining priority access to our speakers, the chance to share announcements, and, at the highest level, running ads and promotions for all our viewers to see. So join now to get the inside scoop on game development and to help shape one of the best game dev channels on the net.
All right, folks, thanks for hanging out for that last commercial. We really appreciate it. If you're into game design, game development, please support our Patreon, and you'll see more. Chris will also talk about his Patreon as well before we go. But I'm going to run my mouth just a little bit more. Fusion 2.5. Ever since I've met Chris, I think sometime last year. Hey, look, I can see myself on your screen. You guys can't see it. Anyways, when Chris and I met for our live streaming workshops, he kind of showed us Fusion, and I started falling in love with it. I mean, just the fact that, there isn't really any specific scripting language, but the fact that it's pure logic based, I love it. And I teach game design, game development, and after-school programs and summer camps. My website is zapmil.com, Z-A-P-M-I-L. And I'm going to hop over to my website real quick just to show you guys. I think, here we go. Hopefully that's not too loud. But this was one game that was made by some after-school programs. Hopefully this isn't blasting everybody away. Yeah, cool. It's a 2-player game. The referee doesn't care. The referee will chase the ball. I thought it was pretty cool. That game is over. I'd have to refresh that one. Whoops. This one was just made last week. Super Duper Fighting Simulator. These guys are pretty cool. They made this game. It's a 2-player game again. You got to kill each other. Boss is optional. It's just more of annoyance. It's pretty funny. And this age group, my age groups are 11 through 17 years old. So, these are just kids making these games. But they also implemented reloads, not just moving around, but they also implemented reloads in boss fights. So, trying to... Hey, no, wait, wrong button. Yep. Paused. There we go. Yep. Reload. Very cool. I'm not going to dive too much into them. And then finally, this game, Fort Farm, made 2 weeks ago in a game camp. Yes, they stole some images from Google. At least they said they did, right? Give credit where credit's due. But this one's pretty simple. You just kind of try to shoot llamas that are trying to attack your fruit. And it is a survival game. How long can you survive? Now, these kids, they made these games in 4 days. So and they worked in teams. And starting from scratch, not knowing anything about Fusion. So, again, I'm super proud of them, super cool. I like everything that they put on. And now you can kind of see me, restreaming me on me. No, you can't see me. Good grief. You know what? I did all that without changing cameras. Oh, well. I wasn't watching chat. I was trying to... Brian needs to share his screen. We can only see you, and I've already closed all those websites. Whoops. Hey, I'll tell you what. zapmil.com. Go check out my website and go to the games tab. Scroll down. You'll see some of the games that I made, and down at the bottom you'll see a link for student-made games, and you can see all the games that my students have made. Well, not all of them, but some of my favorites. Wow, that was an absolute fail. Whoops. Okay. So yeah. I'm going to hush now because I kind of slipped on that one. That was kind of crazy, right? That was a big whoops. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras so that you can actually see me talking to me like this. Yep. Yeah, so you see me talking live right now, and then just a few seconds you're going to see me point to myself like this. Here we go. Watch this. Maybe. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. I don't know. Infinite loop.
That's good.
All right, Chris, you ready to take over, man?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Should be able to hear you. It's going to be on a delay, but my faders are showing that everything is working. You are ready to rock and roll.
Hello, my name's Chris with Click Team. This is number, apricot orange time that I with Georgia Game Developers Association. And we're going to do a little mobile development today. We're going to make a Plinko game for mobile, for iOS specifically. Before I mention it, before we get started on that, I do want to mention that we had a game come out today that we're pretty proud of. Gelios, which is angel in Greek. It's a Wonder Boy and Monster Land clone. It's developed by Storybird Games and published by these guys. The reason I'm mentioning it is we helped with the Steam events for achievements, and then we're actually going to be doing the code conversion to Switch. So this will be on the Switch before the end of the year. Pretty cool game. Check it out. It's on Steam today. Released today. So yeah, let's get to Fusion. Here we go. Here's a fresh, brand new, unmolested version of Fusion that we're going to get down and dirty with. Again, I tell everybody this. The very first thing you have to do is go File, New.
No
Now,
way.
folks, if you have trouble doing File New, then I suggest that you look at some other career or hobby. Computers would probably not be for you. However, if you can do File New, then you're in the top 99 percentile. Congratulations. So as I mentioned, we're going to do a mobile game. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the interface for those of you that haven't seen Fusion. You've got the workspace toolbar, which will serve as kind of your tree into your application. At the top levels of the application, and then Fusion apps are divided up by frames. And then underneath the frames, you'll see the different objects we use. This is the properties toolbar, and we'll get to that in a second. Very important toolbar. And we're looking at the storyboard editor. The storyboard editor, again, is where we create our new frames and navigate between them. Now, just real quick, we're going to go into the frame editor. This is the frame editor. We got a layers toolbar over here. This white space with the dotted line around it represents our viewport into our game or our stage. The dark gray would be backstage. Now, this is currently set to Windows, so you'll see that Windows being the most prolific version of our runtimes, there's a ton of different objects. I don't even have them all. If I go into the manager, you'll see that it takes forever to load because there's all these wonderful objects. You see that there's a ton more that I don't even have installed. And then, of course, they're divided up by Windows and the various different platforms that they support that we have available, but most of them are all Windows. The reason why I'm showing you this is because we're going to switch to iOS, which some of you, I haven't done this in any of the streams. I haven't done any mobile development. So we go to application, I click on the application in the workspace toolbar, and you'll see that my properties have been filled in for the application. The last tab you'll see is Windows. And these are all the different bunch of options at the application level that I could affect that are relative to Windows. But if I go back to the first tab, which we call Settings, you'll see that under Build, I have Build Type. Now, depending how much you love Fusion and how much you've invested in us, and for those of you that have invested on us, thank you very much. Your different DLC or exporters will appear here. Fusion comes with Windows automatically, but you can add Mac, Flash, Android, iOS, HTML5, and UWP or the Universal Windows platform. So you'll see that we have multiple iOS options. The two primary ones we work with is iOS Xcode and iOS Final Xcode. The difference being is Final Xcode only generates code for Apple, for the iOS, for the Xcode environment that is relative to your project, whereas iOS Xcode generates pretty much all code that you could use in an iOS project. You do that for debugging purposes. So being that we just started a project, we'd want to select that. Now watch what happens when I select it. I get a new dialog. My current application is set to 640 by 480, which is the default Fusion resolution for a new application. That doesn't work for Apple. They don't support that type of resolution. So what we've done is we've broken down resolution choices here for you to make it easy. So I'm going to pick 640 by 960 because I'm going to go for a portrait view. And we hit OK, and it will reconfigure the app. You'll see that it created new view space that I can scroll down from. Now, the second thing I want to show you is now that we've switched to iOS, you'll see that I get iOS properties at the application level. And this is like your iTunes art, your launch images, screen orientation. Like we can make it, it's default to portrait, but I can make it portrait automatic. So you could rotate your phone, fit inside bars. This is how you display it. You want to use that when you're trying to fit multiple aspect ratios. You would select different options to fit that. We're going to just stick with the 640 by 960. And then, I add, which I believe this is no longer good. We should probably remove it in the next build. And then you'll notice that at the frame level, you also have new properties that didn't exist before. Specifically, what's the interface mode? Are we using what type of devices are we using for interface? So forth and so on. Now, if you remember, when I showed you the objects for Windows, we do use solid, And we've limited now just to the iOS objects. So you can only access objects now that work for iOS. Now, if you're doing a multi-platform project, you can do it all in one Fusion file or MFA. So let's say I had the Android ads object in my Chartboost. Let's say it's Chartboost. Well, no, we have Chartboost for Windows too. So it's over here. We have it for Android. So I'm trying to think of an iOS only. So the Game Center object, which are here, I could add them to my project, but when I go to Android, they would still be in the project. I wouldn't be able to select them as new objects while in Android, but they'd still be there. Now what happens is at build time, anything that's not related to the platform you're building, that code will be ignored. So when you're programming for multiple platforms, it's important to compartmentalize your code so that nothing that would require the Android version of your app to run correctly is dependent on an iOS-only object. So you got to compartmentalize your code. Not hard to do. And if you do it right, the cool thing is, like my current mobile project I'm working on, Tic Tac Tower, all I have to do is go into that Properties tab, flip the switch, and it automatically builds for me. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So I took the liberty of making some graphics for this project that we're going to do today. So I'm going to grab a backdrop. So this is a backdrop object, and for those of you that don't know, a backdrop is exactly what it says. It's just a pretty picture that does really nothing but shows you prettiness. So we double click it, we get into the picture editor, I hit open, and you can see I've already built some art, and one's called game background. So we go ahead and select that, and then hit OK, and then I'm going to align it to the left, and I'm going to align it to the top. So that becomes our background for the game. Then we need some active objects. So let's go ahead and clone a couple out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone, which will make multiple objects, but different objects. If I was to duplicate, I would make multiple instances of the same object. But because I'm trying to do multiple different objects, I need to clone. And we'll just go with 3x3 for now. And then we'll take a majority of these and just put them over here for now. And we'll pull them down as we need them. First thing we need is we need our ball. So let's go ahead and go to Game Sprites, select the whole image, and then we're going to crop out the ball, which I intended this little green guy here to be the ball. And then I use the cropping tool to remove dead pixel space. And then my hotspot, I'm going to center. Now this is going to be even more important because I'm going to use a physics movement or a box 2D movement on this object. And in order for the collision mask and the physics engine to work correctly, you need to find the center of mass. So if I had it over here, it would really make the physics wonky. So by making it center mass with the sprite, we should ensure good bouncing. All right. So again, Properties tab. If you notice, when I click on a background object, I get certain types of properties. But when I click on the ball, I get different types of properties because each object in this object-oriented language has different forms and functions. So the properties themselves are also different. The third tab is our movement tab, and we're going to go to the bouncing ball movement. And I'm going to get yelled at as soon as I click it. Please insert a physics engine object in this frame. And then it's going to, again, remind me that the hotspot needs to be in the middle. So what it's saying is, in order for the Box 2D engine to work, I need to have this physics engine object, which basically is the engine, and these objects connect to it. And then it does all the calculations in the game for you. All right, so if I was to run it now, there goes the ball. Not good. Where'd the ball go? Why is it gone? What are we going to do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this to active ball. And then before we get to coding, we're going to grab another active. We're going to select Game Sprites again, and we're going to grab a bumper. A bumper. For those of you that have been to New England. And put that hotspot dead center. Now, as this is a static object, it's not going to move. I do not need to give it a physics move. I don't have to give it any movement. We'll just leave it that way. We are going to rename it to active large bumper. Bumper. There you go. All right. And then, of course, a game with one bumper would not be good, so I'm going to now duplicate. And this time we'll go ahead and make another 9 objects. This time you notice it's still only one active large bumper because these are multiple instances of the same object. And for giggles, we're going to spread them around.
P.S. folks, this trick is very handy if you're using the free version.
Okay, now run it again. And our ball flies through the bumpers. Not a good thing. I also notice that my ball's rotating, which I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to remove auto rotation. Okay, so now we're going to go into our code. This is the event editor for those of you that have not used Fusion. The event editor allows us to do all our coding. It's our version of coding, and it's real easy. First thing I need to do is see if the ball's trying to leave the screen. Is it trying to leave the left, top, or right of the screen? If it is, then bounce. Everything that you could ask and do is already broken out for you. So there's bounce. Also, we need to see if the ball is colliding with the paddle or the bumper. If so, we're going to just start by bouncing it, but you'll see that there's an issue if I can duplicate the issue. Let's run it real quick, see what we get. There you go. So now we're kind of bumping through, just like Plinko. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, great. Now, let's see if I can duplicate the bug that I discovered earlier. Not a bug, just an issue. So the first thing we got to do is I'm going to clone our ball. Okay, I'm going to rename it to Active Ball Placer because, you know, in Plinko, we place the ball down. Who's the host now of the Venerable Game Show? Who knows the host name?
It's not Drew Carey anymore, is it?
Oh, I think it is still Drew Carey.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Drew Carey would give you a couple little slats, and you'd have to climb that ridiculous-looking ladder, get up there, and slide the ball in. So we got to emulate that in our game. So I've removed movement on this particular object. I'm going to place it here. I'm going to give it an animation because we want people to UI-wise realize that this is not the same as the ball. I'm going to go ahead and just use the Fusion built-in goodies. Oh, wrong color. I wanted white. Okay, and then if we play the animation, we got a nice little flash. So we'll put that there. And then we're going to go here, and we're going to say always. Set the X position of the ball to X mouse. What does that do for us? So now I'm able to slide based on my mouse or finger touch when we get into a mobile device, the ball. Of course, our ball already existed, so we need to remove it from the game at start. So when the game starts, this ball does not exist in the game. Now, we need to say, oh, we need a new object. That's true. We need one more object. We need the multiple touch object. Now, in Fusion, if I use mouse commands, so if I click mouse, user click, for instance, right? Then whenever I click the mouse button, it'll do something. Or in the case of mobile, whenever I tap the screen, it will do something, which is fine for clicking on objects or stuff. But in the case of the ball placer, we need the ball placer to move with the finger. So we can't use this event because as soon as we touch the screen, it's going to create the ball. So what we need is this new object I showed you, and we got to get touch. Has a new touch been released? As a touch ended? And because this isn't multi-touch, we can just use this. But you could also say touch 1, touch 2, touch 3 is ended. But this means when I release the screen, or in the case of the mouse, when I unclick, it will execute whatever the command is. And in this case, the command will be create object, create active ball relative to our mouse placer. Okay, now visually we want this to be invisible, but we need it to appear when there are no active balls on the screen. So that little extra condition there and this little extra action will allow us to have the ball, and then when I click and drop, I create the ball. Now we have another coding issue. The ball shouldn't, when I click on it, it's going random directions. It should always go down because, again, in Plinko, you let the ball go, you let the slat go, gravity does its thing and takes it straight down. And that's easy to fix. We go here to movement, we go to initial direction, and we just select down. Okay, now click, let go, boom. Now here's the bug I found. It's stuck in a repeating pattern. Based on the Box 2D engine and the fact that the objects have certain forms of collision, it's in this perfect pattern. And so what I did to fix it when I was testing this idea before the stream is I did this. I went into movement, I went into physics, and I added impulse. Okay, and I just added an impulse of 1. And then what I did is I said 2 times random 180, which randomizes the direction a little bit. So let's see if we have the issue again. And you can see that it's shifting a little. There you go. So now that bug is fixed. Now another thing I don't like, if we take a look, we'll see that the collisions are not really touching, are they? So to fix that, we need to go into the collision engine here, and we need to say shape of first image. Let's see if we get a bit more contact now. Still not doing it. So let's figure out where we're wrong here. Looking at the alpha channel. Okay, so my alpha channel is causing this issue, if we were to look here, where it's extending the pixels outside of the dead space, and the dead space is the black. So how would we fix that? Well, you know, it's honestly, it's not that hard. What we're going to do is we're going to clone this to active ball 2, and then active ball 2 will be our actual ball, and this will end up just being a collision mask. So then what we'll do is we'll erase this image. We'll set a transparent color. And then we're going to make sure that it's not visible. And then always set position to the mask. And if I didn't blow it up, I blew it up. So let's figure out what I did wrong. So my actual sprite, which is pinned to the collision mask, I didn't have created, and that's why it didn't work. Another thing I'll have to do is make sure that this no longer has a movement. All right, so let's bounce some more. There you go, a little better. Still not spot on, but it'll work. Okay, now let's add a little sound. Can you guys still hear me?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to do something I always do in my projects. I like to create my own local variables object so that I don't have to look for certain values and not have to use up the global values. Local value storage. And we're going to call the first value sound to play. And then just so I can identify it easily in Fusion, in the event editor, I'm just going to color it up real quick. Quick like. And then, of course, it takes a snapshot of the first image, and that ends up being the icon that you see here. So we'll move that there. Now, what I'm going to do is when I have a collision between the ball and the bumper, I'm going to set that sound to play to random 3. And that will generate a random number between 0 and 2. So it's 0, 1, or 2. It's 0 based. So whenever you use random, if you want 1 through 3, you'd have to do this. But as it's 0 based, it'll be 0, 1, or 2, which is fine. It's perfect. I'm going to run a fast loop, which for our salty programmers would be basically a subroutine. And I'm going to say play bump sound. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to run it once. And then on loop, I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy this and have it 3 times. And then I'm going to compare it to this sound to play. And I'm going to say sound to play 1, sound to play 2. And we play a sound. Sample, play sample. And I also have some samples that I picked up, and you can say I have 3 bounces. I made these in a really cool tool. For those of you who are not familiar with the tool, it's right here. Chiptone, really cool tool. Allows you to generate a bunch of old school sounds and download them. Whoever made this is a genius. Thank you. So we got play bounce 1, bounce 2, and bounce 3. And then we'll play the first one, or the third one actually, and then the second one. And then finally, we're going to play the first one. Now, what does that do for us? And the reason why I did it that way is because you don't want it to sound exactly the same every time it hits, because that would just get kind of boring. So a little bit of variation gives a little more life. Randomization provides life, and by creating 3 different random sounds, we're creating a little more life into the game. Speaking of life, you notice I haven't animated the bumper. You know what? That was intentional. So when we collide with the bumper, we're going to set the scale of the bumper too. We're going to set the scale to, I don't know, let's say 0.50 or 0.5. And then we'll go with maximum quality, because we're maximum quality kind of people. So now we run it real quick. And you see that it's shrinking them. Now, for some reason, it shrunk all of them, which is not good. So I need to figure out what happened there. And that's because I have a fast loop. So the way the subroutine works, and this is a very important issue for Fusion users who get further along. So when I run this event, and I'm going to look at it in the event view list, ball collides with bumper. So basically what that does is in this now in this line, I've identified this ball, whichever ball hits something, and this bumper. I've selected or narrowed down to this one bumper. Okay, so theoretically, whatever I do to the bumper or the ball will only happen to the objects affected in the condition. So the bumper that got hit should be the one that set scale to half its size. Now, the reason why they all did it is because whenever you run a fast loop, and this is the note you need to know, whenever you run a fast loop, Fusion pauses the main loop and goes down and runs the fast loop conditions of the subroutine as many times as you want. The downside is anything you selected here is now removed. It's ignored. So to fix that, we just have to drag the start loop below the set scale, because again, just like in programming, in the old scripted programming sense, everything runs in its main loop in its order of operations. So I just lost the frame. Let's run it, and we should be good now. There you go. Great. Now we need those to expand back out. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an on each loop. And the reason why we're going to do an on each loop is because we need to identify each object that has a scale issue. So this functions like a fast loop, except it iterates the number of times you have a particular object. So on each object of the bumper, we're going to check scale of bumper. And then, of course, I want to copy that. So now that's going to isolate when it runs. It's going to run, in this case, I think we have 9 bumpers, so it'll run 9 times. And then we isolate further by asking if the particular object that has been selected, by comparing 2 general values, if its X scale is lower then 1. So if when it runs, if the one that has been selected scale is 1, then this event will not trigger. So let me go to scale. We set scale. We retrieve the current X scale. And we're going to add 0.10. And of course, maximum quality from maximum people, maximum effort. Now, why isn't it scaling up? Because I haven't called the loop. And that's easy to do. We just go up here, count for each object. That's all you got to do. Now we just breathed a little more life into the game by making the bumpers animate, and we didn't even really have to do any form of animation. We're just scaling. Now you're wondering, where'd the ball go? Great question.
I was going to ask that.
The previous ball, this collision ball, went off screen, and because its memory setting is set to destroy and inactive, as soon as it got far enough away, it dropped off the memory. Unfortunately, it was carrying the actual ball as well, which has the same issue. So as long as I remove this and switch this to no, we shouldn't have that issue. And that fixes it. Taking a little too long to... I want to make sure my code fixes the... Come on. All right, so I didn't like that. So where would we fix that? We would go into here and we'd apply a little more force. What do they say in Starship Troopers? More conflicts have been solved with sheer force. What's the history teacher say? Anybody remember? Come on, I know you know your Starship Troopers. I mean, we need to remember this stuff. We're getting our own Space Force now.
We're over here contemplating about how our memory is getting lost.
Yes. Okay. So now, what's the next thing Plinko needs? It needs the points assigned. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have our divided up areas. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab a new object, go to our game sprites, hit OK rather, and then scroll out, scroll down, and you can see that I have a little divider down there. I'm not happy with them, but that's what I could do today. And then this will become our little divider spot. All right, now, well, we've got to name your stuff. What do we call it? Points divider. Don't be one of those kids who doesn't label his stuff.
Amen. My students hear me preach that all the time.
I actually heard a teacher once say that if you're good enough, you don't need to label stuff. And I just kind of listened and laughed internally. You should always label your stuff. Mark of a good program writer is that you write code so good that when the company fires you and replaces you, the next person can work on the project. No laugh? Come on, guys.
I'm sorry. We're chat. We're kind of getting carried away. Sorry.
Okay, so there's our divider, and then we need a couple more. I said a couple more. Weird. That's what. Oh, you know what? My hotspot's off. That's why. So I keep dropping these objects, and they keep appearing. So negative 589. So that means they're appearing all the way down here. And I can fix that by fixing the hotspot, which I'm not going to mess with right now because I'm running low on time. All right, so now we've got 3 more aligned to the bottom. Select these bad guys, align to the bottom. Okay, align to the bottom. And here's a fun trick for you kids at home. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to say arrange, space objects horizontally, and boom, I've got divided up equal segments.
Wow.
Okay, so now we need to test if the ball has hit any of these areas, right? So to do that, we need to do the following. We need to get a detector object. So I'm just going to grab 4 of these rather. going to bring them down here. Because I'm lazy, I'm going to delete 2 or 3. I'm going to zoom in back to 100%. Okay, and then I'm going to make this a solid color. Whoop. I tell my kids when I teach Fusion to go, whoop, make a sound. If you're not making sounds while programming, there's something wrong with you.
Yep, see, Andrew, HDI Andrew said in chat, do you have to say the word boom in order to make it work?
You do. You really do. I mean, that's my belief, but what do I know?
Well, you're using Bleep. That'll work.
So I'm going to say active. Now watch this. I'm going to say collision detector. Let's say a point detector, right? Detector. But I'm going to put the number 1 there, okay? Because I need 4 of them, right? So I'm going to clone it. I'm going to say 1 and 4, and you'll notice that it automatically numbers them for me.
Wow.
Because Fusion loves us like that. And then, of course, I put a space, so we'll match by putting a space. And I believe that's what it did. It actually may have... Yeah, so there we go. Active point detector 1, 2, 3, and 4. Great. So now we're going to make all of these invisible. Well, first, we're going to center in position. Okay. Now, just like before, this one's set correctly. So if I select the remaining 4, arrange space objects horizontally, boom, does the work for me. Fusion's about working smart, not hard. We're firm believers in you working smart, not hard. I'm going to clone this event, change it to the bumper, and I'm going to remove the set scale and the fast loop. That should mean that when the ball bounces down, and if we can successfully hit one, we get a bounce, and it didn't bounce. So we have to figure out what happened there. It could be because it was too low on the screen. Now, you notice that when I'm testing, I'm not seeing the full resolution of the screen because my screen isn't high enough resolution-wise for me to display. So a way to cheat is I can just go into Xcode. I can switch it back to Windows. I can then go here. I can say change resolution. I'm sorry, resize, keep aspect ratio, anti-allays, and fit inside box. And now when I run it, I get the full thing. So let's test it again and see. Well, that was no fun. So for testing purposes, we're going to include the bottom for bouncing. Okay. Getting the sense it's not bouncing, and it's not. Okay, so where did we go wrong? Let's take a look. Points divider. Bounce, apply enforce, set sound to random 3. And we should play the sound. Active ball, active ball. Could it be it's an active object? This is weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone one to test quickly. Remember, kids, programming is the art of coming up with something amazing and then trying to figure out what the heck you did wrong. It's like a murder mystery. You're Sherlock Holmes. You're trying to figure out who committed the murder, but you're also the murderer. All right, I think it has to do with the hotspot again. Because, again, remember, physics warned us that in order for the collisions to work, the hotspot had to be dead center. So now we're going to zoom out, find out where our stuff went. It's all the way up here. So we go back to 100%. We'll select them all. Arrange, align and frame, horizontal center, arrange, align, bottom. And we should be good. And the hotspot's already good on those. So now let's run it. There you go. Bingo. More often than not, we get people say, hey, there's a bug with Fusion. You did something wrong. It's, because people assume it's never their fault. And what I've learned using programming languages, mostly Fusion, is that 99 times out of 100, it is my fault. So remember that when you're programming. you're going to make mistakes and things are going to go wrong. So now we've got the blue working. Now, one thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the detection happens when the ball goes all the way through. So I'm going to move it down a little bit. And we need to add a new interface element. I'm going to grab a layer. I'm going to insert an object. I'm going to actually use the active we have up here. No, we need a backdrop. Let's go with backdrop. So we go with backdrop, select it, open, game sprites, hit OK, and I'm going to trim out this upper navigation bar, trim it down, and then make sure that's in layer 2. Otherwise, it will appear behind actives, line, left, and then I need a score object. Let's go with, I could go easy and just use the score object itself, but that's kind of lazy, so I'm going to go with the text string. We're going to set the color to white. We're going to right adjust it. We go in and mess with the font. Now, here's a note. When you're using fonts in mobile, there's a few built-in fonts. You can try to use a font packer and pack in your own fonts, or you can use the fonts that the environment, the mobile OS environment supports, which I believe Tahoma is one of them. So we put that there. And why don't we see it? Well, because I put it again on layer 1. So when you make a new object, it creates on whatever layer you have selected. But you can always move it by dragging it onto the layer. So I'm going to put this here. And that will become our score object, and I will let us know its score by just saying score. But I'm going to have an always. We actually have an always event. I'm going to go here. I'm going to say change alterable string to convert string. And then we're going to grab the built-in score. Or I could declare my own variable or do whatever we want. So now we're going to need to generate those scores. So active point, active point, active point, right? I'm going to go in here and I'm going to give these guys each an alterable value. New, and I'm going to call it point reward. Okay, now I'm going to make this one 25. I'm going to make this one 50. Make this one 100. Make this one 25. Okay. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give these guys a grouping, a qualifier. Qualifiers are so much fun. We recently gave you a bunch of different colored little qualifiers for fun. You know, I don't know what I want to use. Let's take a look here. I don't know. So many cool options. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go fun. I'm going to say generic 1. Yeah, that sounds fun. Now we're going to bring this condition down here, collision against the ball, and the group, generic 1. If we have a collision, I'm going to destroy that ball. I'm going to reposition the bouncing the actual display ball back up into where it goes. Okay, and then to score under the player object score. Add to score, I'm going to pull that value from A, or point reward. Let's see what that does for us. So I just added 25 points. Woo!
Come on, big money, big money.
Big money, big money. No whammies. Wrong game. 100. Okay, now, so for some reason the ball got stuck there, so we'll need to figure out what happened there. But that's fine. And watch what happens when I click again. It'll reposition. So now we're getting points. One thing I noticed is we didn't have any sound when that happened, so we should probably get our winning sound, which I think was small win. Then I made a big win, which I was going to layer with small win, but we'll go with small win for now. And let's see, set position. Yeah, that should have worked. I don't know why that didn't work. So another thing we can do is we can say, for the masked ball, we can say invisible. Or, more apropos, if number of masks, active ball equals 0, then make active ball 2 invisible. And then just dragging it to a new condition. I'll drag it back up here for organizational purposes. Is it greater than 0? Then we'll make that ball reappear. Visible, make object reappear. Okay, also, when touch is ended, I had a sound effect for releasing. So let's go and grab that. Okay. Come on, big money bird.
Comment in chat says this guy really knows how to score.
There you go. What you talking about?
What?
Holla. Okay, so we got all that going. I'm going to move this collision back up here. And I don't know if you guys heard me earlier, but write comments to your code. Collisions. Comment. Play bumper sound. You could say create new ball. And then down here we have insert comment, resize to 1 for bumper. And then, we can go further as we go with our code.
So, hey, I want to remind people in chat and everything, if you have any questions, please post them in chat, and we will be sure to pass them on. In the meantime, Chris, I do have a question for Fusion.
Go ahead.
When it comes to, go to your event editor if you don't mind.
Okay, 1 second.
Yep, I'll let you finish this.
Appreciate that. I appreciate you doing that.
I'll let you.
We'll move it down here, and then we slide it down here. I believe this was 100. So then we just slap that there. Okay, what was your question?
In your event editor.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Say, for instance, I wanted to group some of your objects that you have up here. Let's just go ahead and say your 3 balls that you have, the 3 ball objects that you have, and put them in a folder. Is that possible? Or to try to group them as one category so I don't have to see all 3 of them at once until I need to use them?
So I'm glad you asked, and I'm more than willing to answer, but did you not know, or is this a paid-per-view TV question?
This question doesn't actually come from me, so if it's a big secret, then
No, it just felt like one of those TV infomercials. I can blend with all sorts of food. That's really interesting. How do you do that? I'm glad you're up. I'm going to show you. Anyways, so up here at the top are all our different objects, right? I can right-click, and you get these options. One is insert object folder. What it'll do is it'll create these brackets. And then what I do is I drag the bracket to wherever I want, and then click on the bracket, rename it, and we can call it ball items. And then whenever I want to clean up, I just double-click it, and then it hides those objects in here for me. And it will merge all the check marks here. So now, of course, when you're looking at your code, you're going to want to break it back out to see what's going on. Another thing you can do is you can create spaces between. So here we have our detectors, right? I could pinch. See when the mouse does that, I could pinch a little bit, and I could create a divider, which would put some space between them to make it a little more visually sound that that's a grouping. Those are 2 ways you can group stuff in Fusion. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a way to do it here too. Oh, I forget how we do it. Let's go back. You know what? I don't remember how to do it, but there is a way to add folders here too.
And then also in your workspace toolbar, can you do it there as well?
No, I don't believe you can do it here, and that's because this is a tree. If this is too much for you, then just do that.
All right. No, very cool, very cool. I especially in the event editor, I see some people working in Fusion, and then they'll have several different either active objects or of some sort that are very similar to each other, and
Right.
And being able to collapse them as so. Yeah, you can scroll left and right, but I knew I was having a hard time trying to find that today, where the
All
folder
right.
is.
Well, I'm feeling good about being able to help you there on that.
No one Jeff in Mixer says right click on the workspace toolbar, then you can see the Windows list, the folder that is. Sorry, he corrected himself.
So right click on the workspace toolbar. I'm not seeing it.
Do we know no one Jeff?
I mean, I know of him. I don't know him personally, like outside the world of the internets. I know he's been viewing a lot of our videos and stuff, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, so he corrected himself again. He says right click on frame 1, I mean.
New folder. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sexy. And then I guess you just drop it in there. Look at that.
Look at that. Beautiful. Hey, thank you, Jeff. No one Jeff.
This is why I love Fusion. So I was at a trade show with Francois, one of our founders, the original designer of the 7 versions ago. He recently moved on from the company. I was at a trade show with him. He is, as with both our founders, French. He has a wonderful French accent and that French demeanor when he's speaking. Just absolutely love it. And we were, programming it. And I was sitting here and I was doing this. I went like this. I just moved one condition down to another while demonstrating to a user. And he goes, wait, what is this? And I'm like, what do you mean, what is this? He goes, what did you do? And I showed him how you do it. And he's like, I have created the program and I did not know you could do this. So that's fun. You never know what you're going to learn, right? Okay, so now we've created our sounds. Let's make a little bit of particle effect, if we will. I'm going to go ahead and grab another object from my pool of objects. You see I made a star over here. It just felt like stars would be a great particle. I'm going to highlight it, shrink it down, center the hotspot, and I'm going to copy paste multiple times, loop it, speed it up, and for giggles, we're going to put some color to it. I'm going to go with very light colors. So blue, purple, red, maybe green. And then, I don't know, a yeller?
Yeller.
Yeller?
Yep, sticking to our Georgia accent here.
Yeah, of course. Keeping it real. And then we play it, and, we get that nice little effect. Okay. I don't want this created at start. Now, when we collide with our zone right here, with our wind zone, we have that variable that is 25, 50, or 100 score. We can repurpose that. We could absolutely repurpose that. We could say first we need to identify which one it is. So we would do that, and the easiest way to do that is to get us another object. There we go. We'll put it on first level. This needs to be on first level. It already is. Good. And we're going to put it down here. We're going to make it visible for now. I want to kind of stretch it up. Okay. So what this is going to do is this is going to get placed whenever we have that collision. So collision between, and then we find our placer, position, select position, relative to whichever version of the object we hit. So that's going to help us select the object, okay? In fact, we could spawn our particles from this object. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to create another fast loop, start loop, create stars. And then how many loops am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to base it on that value. I'm going to say value, and we'll just go with a full point reward. So 100, 50, or 25. And then down here on loop, and I forget what I called it. I don't think I paste. Oh, I did paste it. Look at that. See, habits are great. Okay. And then we're going to create the star relative to the placer. And then we're going to give it a little bit of fun. We're going to say movement. We haven't given it a movement yet, so I'm going to break it down. Movement. Let's go with pinball. Let's limit the directions it can move in. And we've already got a gravity set. We just need speed. So movement, set speed, 25 base speed plus random, 25. End up adjusting it. And then let's see if that does anything for us. Okay, so we created the stars, but they were pretty low. So we're going to need more speed. We're going to need ludicrous speed. Oh. Okay. Now, I didn't like the pattern very much, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow down. Okay. And then I'm going to also change the deceleration speed. So we'll say 10 plus random 15. Woo! Still not fast enough. What is our max speed? Let's see. Oh, we can go really high. Okay. So let's go ahead and say 150 plus 100 or 150. Make it more random. 75. Let's see what that gives us. Really? And we can adjust all the physics by going into the object's properties. See,
there you go.
It's more of a win right there. Okay, good. Now, we don't want people to see the placer, so we make the placer invisible. And then the stars, the coloring was right, but I think it needs an ink effect. And for mobile, the best ink effect to use currently is add. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah.
Nice.
And you can change it up all you want. But that's how we'd add some ink effect. Now, the final thing we'd want to do, because we're running out of time here.
You're okay.
I'm going to say start a frame. Move that to the top. I also got us a little bit of music to go with the game. Samples, play and loop sample. Want it to consistently play. And I believe it's this bad boy right here. Open. We want it to loop. We can do our title real quick. Insert. Active. Place it on the top. Open. Sprites. Blanco. It's a crappy clone of the real thing.
Hey, no one. Jeff also threw a new question at you. If you can answer this one, all right?
Okay.
Will the Box 2D physics engine see any changes in Fusion 3?
Oh yeah. I mean, everything in Fusion 3 is getting revamped and updated for, 2018, 2019. So I mean, Fusion 3 is a fresh rewrite. That's why it's taking so long. We kind of pulled a Bethesda with Fusion 2.5 and all the previous versions, consistently building on the same code over and over again. But we've kind of learned our lesson that we need a fresh version. So Fusion 3 is built from the ground up, which is a good thing. That's not what I wanted. No. Got sidetracked by the cool question. Okay. And then space. Oh no, I'm trying to make it look a little more logical. There we go. Now, another thing we can do, which we haven't done, but we won't have time, is we could randomly place these. We could use an algorithm to procedurally generate the bouncers. We can make the bouncers move. We can do all sorts of good stuff. I'm probably going to polish this up and put it on ClickStore for folks to mess around with, if you want. Yeah, I mean, we just really cracked the surface what you could do with Blinko. I think one of the coolest games. I can't remember the name of it. Peggle is basically Plinko, and that's a really fun game. I think it's due for an update. I don't know why I think Plinko. I think it's on mobile, the Peggle games, but it's certainly not a genre that's been explored to its fullest. It also depends on what market you're trying to work with.
Hey, Chris, can you tell us more about the ClickStore?
Sure. What would we like to know? The ClickStore is our own asset store that allows users to create their own content and place it. I will pull up the link for you here shortly. All right, so we got the title. So what we'll do, just the down and dirty version of this, is when the touch is ended, we'll go ahead and destroy the title. So we run it. So that's not good. It got clear past the money. So I'll have to add more bumpers. And the music's a bit loud too. So we go here, sample, set sample volume. And then we'll go ahead and cut it in half. Yeah, that's a little easier. And then we'll fix that bumper action here in a second. Okay, so ClickStore. Like the Unity Asset Store, we are proud to be the second largest asset store in game development. We have a ton of content. We even have our own membership service where you get free content and access to a ton of good stuff, some of which I've done here on this stream. I'm trying to find one I did on the stream. I believe I did. It's near the end here.
Well, you showed us Get Wrecked before.
Yeah, I believe.
And there's one. I saw it. Scroll back up.
This one I did, right? Wasn't that the first one I did for you guys?
What, Hacksaws? Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm talking about Siege right there.
Siege is a good time.
Yes, Siege.
Yeah.
For Southern Interactive Entertainment Gaming Expo.
Right. Or just a video game named Siege. Just kidding. So yeah, and then like the latest one I added was Mini Battle Guy. And then, those are free with the membership. It's our patron service, but there's a ton of stuff. We have categories broken down. Here's all sorts of demonstration and source files for doing 3D gaming with Firefly. I think we'll try to do Firefly our next stream here with GGDA.
That would be awesome. I would love to see some 3D action in Fusion. That is one I haven't gotten my hands dirty with yet.
We have games available that people sell here on the store. We even have Steam redeemable games, should you just want a Steam code. Plugins, there's a ton of extensions that are available that do different things that are made by folks. And, you just create an account and you can buy it and download it and add it to your Fusion. Use it. Tutorials open source. Or if you are a savvy creator, you can create your own seller account. And once a week, I approve all the accounts, and then you can submit your own stuff to the store. So typical 70-30% favoring you for revenue, and make some money. We have a couple guys who, no one's made full-time income on our asset store yet, but I do have several people who have made over 20 in an annual period, so 20K. So you can make some money with it, and it also depends what the quality of what you submit. Some of these are great, and some of them are, thanks for trying, kind of scenario. So I hope that answers the question about ClickStore. If you have a specific question, feel free to.
No, all I said was, please tell us more about the ClickStore.
So, I could continue on and on and on about this, but this is the basic idea. Now, what I do when I'm done, I switch back to Xcode. We'll just say Final Xcode. And then I say File, Build, Application. I select somewhere to build it. Actually, we'll just put it in the folder where we're doing our work. Reactor, open source examples, Blinko, and then I'd say Blinko, run it, it will compile it. Fusion has two types of compile methods. We have final product compiling, which in the case of Windows, Android, it will actually make a compiled exe, APK, or whatever the executable or installer is, the final product. Or in the case of iOS or UWP, some can consider HTML5 the same way, it'll actually bake source code. So in this case, what we end up with is a zip file, and we need to go back to here, and then we got to go here, and then we got to go here, and of course we need to go here, and then here, and then our zip files right here. If I open it up, I have all the source files you would use to open this up in Xcode. So then you would transfer this to a flash drive, or if you're network, you're one of those cool guys, then you just hit your network drive and move it over, and then open it up in Xcode. Unzip it, open up in Xcode, and then compile. And then, from there, you test it and make sure it works. Now, the downside is you got to do a lot of this file transferring, but I've found with the right workflow, it works pretty easy. And we've worked really hard to make sure that when you test it here, you get the exact same results in the final on-device testing.
And there you go, baby adopter. You asked that question earlier, so there you go.
So that's it. That's how easy it is to do for mobile on iOS. Remember, you will need an Xcode UDI. You'll need a Apple developer account. You'll need a Mac. There's no way out of that. And they want to sell Macs. That's their mission. So of course you got to compile on a Mac. We do have Fusion running, full-on Fusion running on Mac now through Wine, a Wine bottler, and you could work in the same Mac environment. It's going to look like a Windows app running in Mac. So if you're one of those Mac elitists who have to have the Mac aesthetic, sorry, can't help you yet. But yeah, you can do that. I've developed on my Mac in Fusion and tested on the Mac, and it worked really well. So.
And then Chris, your Patreon. I know you briefly went across it with your Click Store, but tell us about your Patreon.
Sure. So Click Team opened up the Reactor, which the primary function is to offer you all these goodies that you saw in the Click Store. We're going to be swapping this out soon, but you can get the Google Play objects, Fusion Shapes demo, and the turn-based RPG engine. For a minimum of $15, you get access to the freebies. We have all sorts of different tiers. The higher tiers actually give you, especially the professional developer tier, actually give you direct access to Click Team developers. So if you're working on a professional project and you have a bug, this tier can get you your bugs or your issues solved a lot quicker than waiting in line with the riffraff or the plebes out there. If you want to be royalty. And we do streaming, and we do freebie giveaways and all sorts of good stuff. I have something really cool coming out, which I mentioned in a post, coming out Thursday, and that's this bad boy here. I have, with Simon at Click Team, have made a fully functional Mario Maker, and that source code will be available to patrons real soon, and it's going to be around $20 if you don't want to join the Patreon on the Click Store. It allows you to develop a game level, and then upload it to a server, and then use social media to share the level to other people. They can then play your level, and then it will randomly download levels by anybody that submitted a level to the game, and it's HTML5 based. So it's going to be really cool, and that's going to be launching Thursday if all goes well. And then, of course, I'm going to polish up what we did today and make that a file that you'll get for free as a patron. So yeah, if you don't mind joining our patron service, we try to make it worth your while. And thanks for allowing me to pitch it. And if anybody here is interested in getting a copy of Fusion, I do have some promotional copies left that I can get to you at a discount. You can message me or message me through Brian, and we'll get you hooked up.
True that. All right. So I'm going to turn my camera on. Looky here. Hi, guys. All right. So now you can see my ugly mug. I'm the one who's been talking the whole time. Or no, I'm not. Chris is the one who's been talking the whole time. I've just been the one who's been interrupting him every now and then. And in a good way, right? So everybody, yes, thank you so much for tuning in. Before I let you go, you cannot escape yet. No, we, the Georgia Game Developers Association, we do have our Patreon as well, and we want to give a good shout out to Stephen Coffey, Burton Posley, Lee Friedman, James Sinsman, Drake Carpenter, Joe Casaval. You guys are our heroes, and everybody else who joins our Patreon, you are also our heroes, because we are a nonprofit organization, so your support will help us with efforts to improve game developers and the community, as well as helping to bring better games to life, like Blinko tonight. Our stream is for gamers looking to learn more about what goes into making their favorite games. It's also for new designers to looking to break into the industry, and it's for experienced designers looking to improve their skills, like tonight's stream. Right, for those of you working in Fusion, and then I've noticed in chat that some of you are like saying, "Hey, this is really cool." It is really cool. I agree. You should go check it out. Clickteam.com. Anyway, social media. If you're interested in getting in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ggda_org, or you can check out our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/groups/ggda.org. Also, like that awesome game he was showing a second ago, the first weekend of October, we have Siege. You can find out more information about that at siegecon.net. Also, as I said earlier, we are streaming all of this live streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer /Georgia Game Devs. And then also, you be sure to check out YouTube, our channel. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. Your support really helps us out a lot. But you can also see a lot of the content that we've streamed before. Some content is restricted to our Patreons only, but regardless, you get to see some of these really cool tutorials, especially other ones that Chris has done with us in Fusion. Other than that, what else have I got here? 2018. This is the year 2018 for all of you who might be tuning into this video later on in life. But July 14th, down in Columbus, you can join another game development conference called SimFest. Go to our website at ggda.org to find out more information. And as Chris mentioned, if you'd like to take advantage of this standard version, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, standard version. If you'd like to take advantage of this standard version discount, you can email us. I'm going to go ahead and just say it, info@ggda.org. Just be sure to tell us what it is that you're looking for, and we will pass that information along to Chris, and Chris will give you the hookup. Right, yeah, and actually some of my students had asked about that. They asked, can we get Fusion for free? I said, well, all you have to do is ask. The worst thing you can say is no, right?
Yes, and no.
There you go. And
Sorry.
It's okay, good. That's the answer I was looking for. But again, Chris has generously offered a discount. All right, so this was a really cool stream. Thank you so much again, Chris. Really, really cool. Lots of new things I got to learn tonight too, even using Fusion to teach my courses. So before we go away, I am going to throw one more commercial at you, which is our Georgia Esports League commercial. If you're not familiar with it, you can check out our website, ggda.org. But for the GEL event, Georgia Esports League, college students competing, playing Georgia games for college scholarships. What kind of day do we live in? So check this commercial out. It's really cool. And thank you, everybody else, for tuning in tonight. We will see you later.
The first Georgia Esports League Championship was a great success, with 40 competitors from 6 colleges competing for more than $11,000 in scholarships, as well as bragging rights to being the best in the state. Kennesaw State, Wiregrass Technical, Art Institute of Atlanta, SCAD Atlanta, University of Georgia, and Georgia State University. 3, 2, 1, roll!
Drox has got round the back and took down Devin Alenzaradrina. He's going to get a triple kill.
He's looking for the kill. All he needs is a signature move. One of those fancy, heavy moves.
That's
there it is!
it!
He comes it back!
Here
comes the dragon punch.
I'm going to mess around too much. The tree is dead. Go around the side. KSU! There it is! Mixed with the KO!
So patient,
Can they get
too.
the edge guard onto Queen 9? Will they let him? There it is! The crowd goes wild. We got a point, boys. KSU is staying in this.
There it is! KSU takes their first game!
There it is.
The Mojo dropping down, and who you gonna call? They're not Ghostbusters, they're from UGA. Here we go. Game 3 now. KSU versus UGA. Here we go.
UGA, we're too cocky. UGA are being punished.
Oh, coming out, that's going to confirm it. UGA is your Brawlhalla Georgia Esports League champion.
And with that, UGA will take the game, the match, and the state championship for themselves. Congratulations, boys.